Okay, so we're recording. I'm very excited about today. This is the first of a series of conversations that I intend to have with people who are doing work in topics and areas that are dear to my heart, and that is the areas of connection and belonging, and which I believe are the gateway back to Avalon and to the new earth, to our birthright as the magical human beings that we all are, and to a life that is vibrant, authentic, meaningful, and joyful. So I'm going to have a series of conversations with people who are working in all different ways to support others to connect to themselves, to the home, to the earth, to the community. And today we have Tamika, and Tamika does some of the most beautiful work and helping people connect to their authentic selves. And I won't say any more and allow Tamika to introduce herself.
All right. Hello. Thank you for having me, Karen. So what would you like me to share, Karen? Where do you want me to start?
um, I didn't add in the intro that I've actually done a couple of Tamika's courses, and they were probably some of the most powerful and transformative work that I've ever done. Um, and truly transformative at a soul level, whereas some of the other courses in personal development, which was very powerful, was often still quite mental or head based. And Tamika has a gift for helping people bring, that into an authentic soul transformation, through, we did shadow work and inner child work. And so perhaps start with some of the courses and how you came to that.
Yeah, sure. Seeing this whole theme is really centered around connection and belonging. For me personally, the journey that each human is really on is really a journey of self connection and really coming to remember who we truly are at the deepest level of our being, which to me is our soul. And so many people throw that word around, soul, these days, but in actual fact, I don't meet many people who are literally embodied in their soul and really living their soul's kind of full potential, full path, and what I've come to experience from my own, 20 plus year journey of kind of healing and, personal work is that there's a really deep inner journey required to actually connect to your soul, to actually even connect with your soul, because most of us, all of humanity is traumatized to some degree.
Hmm.
And so through that trauma, we have disconnected from our true self, from our soul. We have dissociated. So we've come up and, out of the body. And we're living more from the mind, we're living more from a place of disconnection. And we have created these aspects of our personality or the ego, which are really just protecting our deeper traumas. And we think that those kind of more superficial aspects of the personality or the ego are ourself, but in actuality, when you go on this deeper journey, those more superficial kind of personality aspects start to dissolve until you dissolve, to keep dissolving, keep dissolving, keep dissolving. It's really this death process until you get to you, and then you actually can feel your true self. And that's where, it's the journey of kind of coming home to who you really are. And it's a huge journey, It's a huge journey. And when you kind of connect to yourself, from there, then you can connect more deeply into Gaia and into the earth, and that connects you more deeply into the cosmos and then the greater universe. And you can expand from there, right? So the connection to our, spirituality is really to come into the body. It's to come into the body. It's to come in and down. So, and that's what really helps us to connect with everything else, right? Life, the great universe, and have those more, mystical experiences.
And I think too that sense of belonging, because so many of us are searching to belong out there, belong with others, find our place in the world where we belong. But the journey is really about belonging to ourselves. How do we belong anywhere else? And so, one of the things about working with you that I found is you are one of the people who truly hold the vibration of love and as you said, in a way that is rarely held by others. I think people can have moments of it, and I think that sense that you belong to yourself allows others to find their place of belonging by working in that place. So when we belong to ourselves, we bring that to others, and that is certainly my experience of working with you. So,
Mm.
perhaps you could talk to that sense of how you belong to you and how you help others belong to themselves, which is kind of what we've already talked about, but in another way. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think, I think in the heart, the deepest heart of each human is really a deep yearning to return home to love, which, in your words, is to belong to yourself, to reconnect back to your soul, which is to belong to yourself. It's like making that journey home where you can just take your seat inside your body, so to speak, and there you are. You've reconnected and you're fully whole, right? And you're complete. And when that happens, you do feel whole and you do feel complete, and you know who you are and you know your purpose, and life really does unfold pretty gracefully and pretty effortlessly. And there's definitely a feeling of, yeah, I'm home, I belong, I do belong. And I think until we have healed our causal wounds, we're going to look for that belonging outside of ourselves. We're going to be searching for that through, you know, relationships or through work or through something external to fill the void. Because these wounds, it's like these wounds right at the center of them, it's like there's a big gaping hole, a big huge void. And from that void is this feeling of kind of emptiness. And so people reach out from that place trying to get that hole or gap filled from something out here. But it's a really never ending cycle. If you're really seeking externally, you'll never fill the hole, ever. Nothing can ever really fill that gap except for, coming home to yourself, really, and belonging to yourself. So, yeah, gosh, we can be really frail in a way and really knocked about so much by life and by circumstances when we're really not centered and anchored in who we are, because we're looking for that belonging outside of ourselves. But when we, heal these core wounds, the parts of us which feel separate, and disconnected and, betrayed and abandoned and, insecure and and we heal all of that shame and whatever's present in our psyche at the deepest levels, normally that's the part that we're not really conscious of, but it's playing out through our life and our body and our health in some capacity. But when we heal those deeper wounds, by that time, we've learnt to go within. We've learnt to actually really face all these parts of ourself, conscious and mostly unconscious parts of ourself, help to release the stagnant emotions that were stored there, and then meet the need of these parts. And that's when we start to belong to ourselves. It's like everything starts to fit together, and that's where we feel whole, and that's where we feel like, yeah, I belong. And it's a belonging to yourself, but it's almost like you've taken your seat in the weaving of the greater universe. You know, it's like if the universe was just a big, I don't know, a big blanket, like you're perfectly weaved into that, and you can feel your connection to all of that, and you can feel that you're a part of that, and you're an extension of that, and you know your place, and so you can feel that you belong not just to yourself but to something greater too. That's been my experience.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you. And I think also an aspect of it is a lot of us are wanting to belong and to be in service to others. But if we're not in that place of belonging ourselves, that giving and service can be authentic or come from a place of neediness, even though it's an act of generosity. And something that I saw in working with you, it was because you belong to you, you are able to help us to find our belonging in the courses that I did. And so I'm, speaking from a place of how we serve others from belonging is something that, because it's something that's really quite special and extraordinary that you do in your work in that way. Yeah. So I think, could you speak to that? Because that's something about, the way we give to others, and you give, but not at the expense of yourself. And that.
Oh, I used to. I used to be.
Yeah, so talk to that, because that's what so many of us are doing, and it's not a terrible thing. We're trying so hard to be good and to be kind and to be giving, but to be really giving from a place as you do is something that's really special. And I think people are interested in hearing about that, because sometimes I think people feel like they're giving to the point of exhaustion. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've definitely had a huge journey around this, to be honest, Karen. And it's I remember being little, like young, I don't know, primary school perhaps, and having this feeling that I'm here to do something big to help humanity, and I didn't know what.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I had that feeling, right? Like you
Mm.
do. And so giving to other people has always come so naturally to me. You know, when my parents split, I became my mother's rock and stepped into that masculine role and was helping and supporting her. And so I was kind of, just through my ability to really feel other people and to, empathically feel them without them having to speak to me about how they're feeling, I would naturally, as a child, like feel how they were feeling, and if they weren't feeling good, I would want to help them, because I felt strong inside of myself, so I was like, well, I can help them, and so I think being quite intuitive in terms of how I could feel other people led me to wanting to help other people. And I still feel the same. When I feel people, I'm like, I just want to help them, like, but sometimes I've learned that helping them is to not help them, to let them stumble and fall. But anyway, so eventually, I got into this career and and was really driven by being of service. But, when I first started kind of speaking and running retreats and everything, I ended up having to give the business away because I had, adrenal fatigue. And it was probably like the third time that I had burnt myself out. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm supposedly helping all these people, but here I am. My health is worse than ever. And I feel deeply unfulfilled, even though I have a successful business. I'm earning good money, and yeah, I had a good name for myself, and yet I kind of still had this emptiness on the inside and was running myself totally ragged. Like I was a workaholic, literally, and so it was actually that point where I gave my first business away to a friend and said, here, you do it, you take over. And I took about a year off, and that was the first time I actually started doing inner child work, and I met my inner child, and I could actually feel this really sad part of me, so much grief, and it was around this time that I'd split up with a fiance as well. And so I was kind of teaching all of this spiritual and, self-help, healing work, but I wasn't healed myself. My relationships were horrible. I felt so disconnected. Um, Gosh, I felt unworthy. Like I was talking about love, but I wasn't embodied in anything that I was teaching at the time. None of it, really. I just had a really strong, confident mind. And I thought I knew everything and was really quite arrogant at the time. And didn't really know much, to be honest, at the time, but thought I did. And because I'd done, 15 years of different, trainings and whatever. So my mind was extremely empowered and knew a lot, but none of it was embodied. I didn't feel any of what I was teaching. So I was teaching that, we are love at our core. We're a spark of the divine, yet I felt unworthy of. So anyway, so it was at this point in my life where I was like, okay, I need to go within. And I had been told that by, a few different mentors along the way. But because I was studying and learning so much, I actually thought that I was going within. I really did. Like, I thought I was going within, but I wasn't. I was just stuck in my head. I was stuck in my mind, and I was extremely disconnected from myself, from my feelings, from my heart, from my soul, from my true self. I was actually really disconnected. So, of course, my body, my health issues were trying to get my attention. It was like my soul screaming out to me, hey, stop. Listen, come within, heal yourself. So, I think I was forced to, everything is such a gift, so the adrenal fatigue literally forced me to be lying in bed. I had no energy. I just had to stop. I was literally forced to stop. And that was the only way my higher self was really going to get my attention to go within, because I was so busy. I was like, doing everything. I was so busy. My calendar was like booked out for like almost like a year in advance, right? And even for my family to see me, they had to schedule in time in my calendar. Like it was crazy. It was crazy. And anyway, so when I stopped and, I learnt how to go within, I came across the perfect mentor for me at the time and started a really deep journey, which lasted, 5 years. And yeah, I saw as I was healing these core wounds in me and the more I came within and kind of the deeper I came into my body, the more I came in contact with these parts of me that were wounded. I'm holding all of this emotional trauma, and some of this trauma came from my birth, my childhood. Some came from my mother, and her experiences, my ancestry. Some came from past lives. Different places. But as I heal these parts of me, I came to see that I was actually, yes, there was a part of my soul that is here to serve and does have a gift in relation to sharing information, holding space, inspiring others into higher states of consciousness. But while I had those wounds in place, there was distortions in my giving and in my serving, and those distortions were really coming from, there was a part of me that had deep guilt for, making a mistake with my healing in a past life. So part of me was compensating for that guilt, right? Trying to prove to myself and the world that I was good. So, that compensation was playing out. So that was causing me to be a martyr and to overgive and to not give to myself. There was a part of me that lacked self-worth. That was totally, that wound was just being fed by the admiration of my clients. Do you know what I mean? Like that was just band-aiding that wound entirely. They were probably my two biggest drivers. And probably the third distortion was that my work was really a form of distraction for me too, a way to not feel as well. So I came to see all of those through the last 5 years and kind of heal them. And when I did heal them, I had to go through this whole experience of like, well, who is Tamika? Because I used to do a lot of speaking. So, I had this kind of, I'm a speaker. What do you do? I'm a speaker, and when I stopped speaking, I'm like, who am I? Tamika the speaker, if that was like a mask, who am I without that? Who really am I? Do you know what I mean? So I had to come into my own self-worth without that identity, and so that was a journey, and that took, probably a year or so, and kind of becoming a mother helps that too, because then I really stepped back from working and giving, and I had to really sink into my worth from not working, from not giving, do you know what I mean? And experience my worth from just being me and being a mum. So that was needed for that to happen, for sure. And healing the guilt was a huge relief, because then I could just, I used to just speak, and then I'd have this tension in my shoulders. I'd get this pain, like full on pain through here. And I was like, what is this? And when I really got to the root of the guilt, that's what it was. I felt so burdened, and I felt like I had to carry humanity to make up for my mistake, So when that was released and transmuted, oh my God, like that was a huge weight off my shoulders, so that I could then just be and do what I wanted to do, not do all this helping and giving because I thought I had to or I should, to compensate for my mistakes. So that freed me up, like, immensely to just be, really, and from there, if I wanted to do, I could do, but if I didn't want to do, just wanted to be, then I would just be, So since healing all these wounds, I have my action self is probably like a tenth of what it used to be. I'm not very, it's not a lot of acting or doing, in my life. There's a lot of being, there's a lot of stillness, there's a lot of sitting on the couch, sitting on the back, deck and looking at a tree. There's a lot of just being. And in that, I'm connected to myself. I'm connected to life. It's like, that's where God is. That's where source is in the stillness, right? That's where everything is in the moment, the present moment. So yeah, it's been a really, really huge journey to go from someone who was like, like a hamster on a wheel, really just so busy, but actually not going anywhere in my soul. I wasn't evolving in my soul at all. So yeah, coming to that place of feeling enough as I am, releasing the guilt, and just healing my core wounds so that I can just truly follow what feels right and authentic for me in the moment, and that has led me to working very little in comparison to how I used to work, very little. So
the beautiful irony or beautiful paradox is you're doing less, but your impact is so much greater. And we've had this kind of programming that we need to do. And, your work is so powerful and so impactful, but as you said, you're doing less. And I think what you've been talking about through this, lovely chat today is there's so much so many of us can relate to. The doing, the fact that we are all deeply traumatized, no matter how wonderful our parents were, no matter how wonderful our childhood was. We have so much programming and so much stimuli that is external, including, what we were born with, what's carried through our DNA and through our ancestry. And, I think your beautiful sharing today has been of yourself. It's like, that's a gift in itself that I think, many of us that are listening to this can certainly take a lot of wisdom in that. So, if you're going to give one action tip, I know we just talked about not acting, but a tip that someone could take away from our chat today to go, I could do that. What might that be?
You know what? That's simple. It would be to stop throughout the day, a few times through the day, and put your hand onto your heart and just breathe through your heart and just check in and go, what am I feeling? What am I feeling?
Perfect. And so powerful and so simple. And it really is coming into the self. Like, am I in myself? As you said. Thank you. That is just so perfect. So if anyone wanted to get in contact with you or find out more about your work, how would they do that?
So I'm in the process of building a new website, but it'll be up at some point. But www.tamikarose.love would be the best way. Yeah. when that's up soon this year sometime. I'm taking my time with it. I'm in no rush, but it'll be up at some point. Or Facebook is really great too. Yeah. Or they can email me at hello@tamikarose.love. That's definitely working right now. That's the email I use and will use.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's this was the first of the talks, and it was just like, oh, it's warmed my soul to be able to warm my heart, to talk to you in this way, and thank you for that.
So welcome. Thank you for having
Okay.
me.